So I'm currently looking at a beautiful sunset, and I've recently moved to London from Berlin, and autumn is occurring, and Sally Rooney has a new book, and life is good. So I thought the first book that I will read in my new London home is going to be Intermezzo by Sally Rooney, because this is her new book. It's her fourth novel. I've read her three other novels. Her first one, Conversations with Friends, and her second one, Normal People, and then her third one, Beautiful World, Where Are You? My favourite book of hers is Beautiful World, Where Are You? I got really attached to Alice and Eileen, and I really loved the letters that they wrote to each other. And her new book, Intermezzo, is about two brothers, I believe, and also about chess. And I'm sure it's also about relationships and existing in the modern world and about how we communicate. And yeah, I'm really excited to read it. So I thought in this video, I would document my week reading it, because I reckon it's probably going to take about a week, and also take you with me around London. So I've read the first two chapters and I thought I would give my immediate impressions, and it's really good. So we have Peter and we have Ivan, and they are brothers. Peter is in his late 30s, I believe, and Ivan is in his early 20s. That's what I've got so far. And Peter is pretty confident and he's pretty good with women, it seems, but he seems maybe a bit unhappy within himself. And then Ivan is much more underconfident. Maybe he has some kind of autism, possibly. He is really good at chess, and he also is very lovable, I think, because it's easy for me to relate to him as someone who also maybe would feel a bit shy or uncomfortable in different social settings. The first chapter is from Peter's perspective, and then the second chapter is from Ivan's perspective, and I feel like we're going to get those two perspectives as the book goes on. Even just from these first two chapters, I can really understand like Peter and Ivan and their dynamic. Also, it seems like a catalyst for this story is that their father has just died, and yeah, I guess that's going to be a theme that runs through it, how they both react to this and how they both deal with their grief. And yeah, I'm excited to see what's going to happen. Hello, so it's a few days later now, and I am a bit further into the book. I teach English here in London, and I teach online and also in a school, at an English language school. And over the past 2 days, I went into the English language school to teach, and on the way there on the tube, I listened to the audiobook, and so that helped me progress with the story. And it was a really nice day on Thursday, and I sat by the river and listened to the audiobook and ate a pretzel, and it was really nice. And I really enjoyed the story. So Ivan has a romantic relationship going on with a woman named Margaret, and Margaret is like 36 and Ivan is like 22, and I find this relationship quite interesting because usually I would maybe judge a relationship a little bit if a woman was 38 and the person she was with was 22, because I think that's quite a large age gap. But Sally Rooney does a really good job of like making you understand the relationship. You know, Ivan is fairly socially awkward and so is Margaret, and they sort of find a connection with each other because they both have similar feelings towards things, and they kind of feel a bit like on the outside, but together they feel like included. And I really like their relationship and how it's kind of changing my perspective on the age gap relationship topic. And then we have Peter's storyline, and his romantic relationships are also explored. He has Sylvia, which is a woman he used to date and have quite a strong relationship with in the past, but for some reason they broke up, and I can't quite seem to get like why their relationship ended. And now he also has another relationship with this woman, which is kind of casual. And yeah, in the style of Sally Rooney, the novel is looking at the relationships of Ivan and Peter and how their relationships work with their like romantic partners and also with each other. And I can't quite understand how she manages to make it so engaging, because there are very like many quiet moments in the story and moments where not a lot is happening. It's just two people talking and there's not really like a lot of conflict going on, but it's so engaging. And I think it's just because you can see yourself in the characters, and it's exploring like things that I think most people have gone through and most people think about day to day. And so it's quite therapeutic reading her books, because I think it makes you look at your own life and your own decisions and your relationships, and also in every element of your life.
So I've just been at my breakfast and I was listening to a part of the audiobook, and it's the part where the brothers Ivan and Peter have dinner or have lunch and they are talking quite civilly and they're getting along quite well, and there's a lot of history there and it makes the conversation really interesting. And then it ends in quite a crescendo moment where Ivan stands up and says, I hate you. I've hated you my whole life. And it was a really well-written scene because you can understand that they don't hate each other. They're brothers and they love each other, but there's also a lot of like tension between them and differences between them, but also similarities. And it really does a good job of like analysing what a sibling relationship can be like. Yeah, I really want to keep listening, but I gotta go work.
So I have now finished Intermezzo by Sally Rooney and I loved it. So what I loved about this novel is the characters. I love a good character-driven story, to be honest. I don't need there to be much plot in what I read. If the characters are really well written, then I'm all for it. And that's what Sally Rooney does really well. I always can't believe that Ivan and Peter are not real people because I just feel like they feel so real. And I also really enjoyed Margaret in this story, and I liked Margaret and Ivan's storyline because you can really understand them both individually and also understand why their relationship works. And there was a lovely line near the end of the novel which was his name had become so precious to him from the way it sounded in her mouth. So Ivan is saying that like the way that Margaret says his name makes his name so much more like sacred to him, and I thought that was just such a lovely line. And also Peter. I'm adding this in later because I forgot to talk about Peter. Sorry, Peter. So Peter is Ivan's older brother, and we follow him as he deals with his own like complexities and also the complexities within his relationships. So he used to be with a woman named Sylvia. They were together for a long time, I believe about 6 years. And then she had an accident which made her struggle to want to be intimate with him anymore and struggle with other aspects of daily life. And so she broke up with him because of this. But Peter still is in love with Sylvia, and Sylvia still has feelings for Peter, but because Sylvia doesn't want to be together, Peter is also with Naomi, who is younger than him. Naomi is 23 and Peter is 32, and so Peter and Naomi have an age gap just like Margaret and Ivan have an age gap. And the novel explores a bit about how we judge different age gaps in society, like how if a man is a lot older than the woman, it's judged less than if a woman is a lot older than the man, and the hypocrisy within this. And the novel also touches upon polyamory because Peter, Sylvia and Naomi kind of have kind of a polyamorous relationship going on, and I'm not 100% sure my opinion on polyamory. If you had to push me for an answer, I would say that I don't think it works. But this setup is quite unique and perhaps it could work, who knows? And I really enjoyed Peter's storyline and Ivan's storyline, and I think they really complemented each other. And another reason I love this novel is how big themes are discussed through the lens of a very ordinary human story. And I maybe said this earlier in the vlog, but the book feels quite therapeutic because it looks at grief and relationships and communication, and those are all things that we experience no matter who you are. And so yeah, it kind of makes you think about your own life, and as a consequence is quite therapeutic because of that. And there is a line in this book which is, what if life is just a collection of essentially unrelated experiences? Why does one thing have to follow meaningfully from another? And this is a very interesting thing to think about, not just in terms of life, but also in terms of story. And Sally Rooney kind of does this in that one scene doesn't necessarily follow one from the next scene, because they're all kind of a series of mundane, ordinary moments that somehow are completely engaging. But she also does have some structure to the novel, even though there's not a big plot, there is some structure, and she did structure really well in this because there is kind of an undercurrent of tension throughout the novel because Ivan and Peter don't get along very well, and that tension builds and builds until this confrontation scene at the end. And while I was listening to the confrontation at the end, I was so engrossed in what was happening, and I love that feeling when you're reading it. Isn't it so good when you're just completely in the story and you just forget about all your worries and your own life and you're just there with the characters. And I think this book is one of my favourites of the year. Isn't my favourite Sally Rooney novel? I don't know. I did really enjoy Beautiful World by Are You. And I think these two are like at the top for me. I don't know which one I would put first. And yeah, thank you very much for watching this video, and I will see you in another video soon. Bye bye.